What are some of the best ways to cultivate humility?
Generally considered the primary virtue.
Yes. Give away all. Sacrifice your self-importance.
Don't ever believe it's something you're good at.
So what, you're good at what?
Humility.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a Dickens character who used to go on and on about how he was a very humble man. David Copperfield, I think. But anyway.
That sounds about right.
Isaiah Heath, that name comes to mind. Something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just, he's a good character to have reference to sometimes.
Well, this is an important question because humility is so important in terms of the virtues and its impact on one's spiritual life.
Well, yeah. And humility is not just an attitude, it's an understanding. It's an understanding that it's more objective than the alternative.
Well, there are a number of things that contribute to feelings of humility if one is honest. Things like death, things like understanding that finally one really has no control over things, and
ultimately one doesn't even have the self they think they have.
True. And in the same breath, the more of the self they think they have, the less virtue they have.
Yeah, exactly. The more resources that self requires has to be maintained after all.
Yes.
But remembering your death is always a good one.
I'm not sure suffering is particularly good.
It can be.
It can be, yes. Yes, it certainly can be.
It can be, but it can also be the opposite. I've actually witnessed some people that have pride in their suffering.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've known those. I mean, I've known those types. Maybe I've known those people.
It's similar to saying, "Oh, I'm the greatest sinner in the world."
Yeah, something that Sheikh Issa used to complain about.
Yeah, I think in that context,
that kind of phrase, yes.
Yeah, but in that context, is that where he said that a saint who is sorry is a sorry saint?
That true.
Sorry, sorry sort of saint.
So how are we doing here?
That's the nice thing about humility is you realize that you don't need to do anything about who you are, and you don't really. You may have conscience come along, and you may feel some remorse for having done something that you now deem to be really inappropriate or unkind. But guilt is just completely useless.
Right. There's nothing you can do about changing the past.
Yeah.
And you might use the energy for doing something good right now, which is the only chance you'll ever have to do anything.
Right. Guilt and shame. Shame is just the poisonous cigarette. And they're just as worthless as pride.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think of humility as a characteristic of being objective.
Well,
oh yes, very good. That's certainly
seeing
true.
the way things really are.
Well, and there's a reason why most religions have a prohibition on giving and telling people that you've given. The whole thing in Islam of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. And I think that's one of my problems I have with modern day liberalism and liberals is that they're like, look at me, how much I'm saving the world by donating 1% of my Starbucks purchase to the people in Africa. It's just let's give, and tell the whole world how great we are by giving a little bit. It's not really, whether it helps or not, it's not good for one's soul.
It's paying something for the illusion of virtue.
Right.
Purchasing the rights to be righteous.
Well, that's a very good phrase. And
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. Yes, that's what humility is good for, is for purchasing the right to be righteous.
Or for not trying to purchase it. The essence of humility is don't take yourself so seriously.
Somewhere it was written that we have many great saints and sages, but the greatest saints and sages we've heard nothing about because they're not so arrogant to proclaim their greatness.
Yeah. Or they just weren't flamboyant and nobody really paid that much attention to them.
Right.
They didn't call attention to them.
That's certainly true. I think that's one of the things I've learned over the last few years, that there are a lot of truly saintly people who know the truth, who have not lived extravagant lives, and whose realizations have pretty much been kept to themselves.
Yeah. I think there are, a lot of people that go through the Liberation Unchained, or whatever that website is. And it's really all about seeing the unreality of what you think is you. And I'm sure there are people who go through that process and come out the other end much better off, but they don't feel they have a revelation to share with anybody.
Right. I think that's true.
Liberation unleashed, yes.
So, since we've talked a lot about how different things in religion have become degenerate over time, are there any writings or individuals that you feel could help to lead to a renewal of the concept of God and religion as love?
Well, it's going to be different for different people, but for me, what's really been helpful is to discover the same truth being told in, an entirely different way. And then I think, oh, well, it's not that entirely different after all. I just didn't know it. That's why I'm so glad I spent the time, reading a bunch of Christians and a bunch of Buddhists and stuff like that. So if you can discover that you can find truth in these various places, well, what they have in common is that they're a spiritual system of some kind.
Right.
And if you're already a member of one of those, then you can appreciate it more.
Right. I also think it's helpful that to some degree, I think we've gotten through the no one can use the word God culture. I know it still persists here and there, but in the places I know about, or the circles I move in, the term God has finally come back into being acceptable. And I think it has done so because there have been so many things that really are God that one can equate with this thing that we all inherently know.
Well, and when even when just the word God is not there, conversation is missing something important.
Yes.
And I think I hear in the media, people say, my God or God forbid or things like that a lot more often than they used to.
And thank God a lot,
Yeah, exactly. People used to try to avoid it, and they do so less, it seems to me.
Yes, well, I think that point of view has softened a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Over recent years. And to some degree, I credit the New Age movement with that.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly made it possible for people to take spirituality seriously, I mean, to the extent that they did, without being intimidated by a vengeful God sitting there.
Yes, that's right. And to talk about spirituality in the language and metaphor of other cultures, which seemed not to polarize that conversation.
Wait a minute. What?
Well, that in talking or using language from other cultures and other religious systems, one doesn't necessarily call upon the word God.
Yes.
But it's fairly clear what they're talking about. And
yeah, but it doesn't activate your God allergy the same way.
No, that's right. I wish I'd said that. Yes, and as we are inevitably brought more and more into contact with other peoples, other cultures, and these other ideas for those who are all interested. And I think to some degree, almost everybody is interested in some notion of finding out some reality, learning what they can about who they are and where they are existentially.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, we have a lot of ways that people try to do self-improvement.
Yeah.
The problem is they're trying to acquire something.
Yes, that's right. And I don't think the Protestant Christians have helped much in this.
No, hardly. No, they are exactly the kind of people who would be proud of their humility.
Yes, that's right. And similarly, if you can avoid that kind of polarization, you finally get to the point. Okay, there is a final truth.
I may not know how to express it, but it's got to be there.
Yes, and some call it the ground of being.
Some call it the void.
The fundamental reality. Yes, the void. That kind of thing. Okay, you want to call it God? Okay.
That's fine. People have been calling the ultimate reality God for a long time. There's no reason to give it up.
Right. Seda Badria, I'd like to hear from you here.
Oh, well, I just think we need to get beyond some of the contemporary terminology that we use here. I think we need to break out of the old mold, because as much goodness and truth and beauty is in the old forms no longer speak to many people.
Yeah.
And there's still truth in them and still beauty and goodness.
Of course.
But how do we present these things, the core of them, the eternal thing, to people that are no longer willing to accept the external forms? And some people are even repulsed by the external forms, or maybe, just maybe, some of the religions have descended so far that even if the religion itself is not beyond being saved, its worst enemies are its own practitioners and believers. I mean, many people, some of the greatest minds today in Christian thought, for instance, David Bentley Hart, he just published a new article last night where he's saying, I'm not sure that Christianity has enough gas left in it to actually weather the storm of the modern day Christians.
Yeah.
And he said, asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said this. Maybe I would have said, Dawkins and Hitchens were the biggest enemies of religion. And
Right.
he even wrote a book about it. But he said, no, today the biggest enemies of religions are the practitioners of those religions. And so there's a lot of people out there that I think are very hungry spiritually. We're not living in the 1840s now, where positivistic thought is new and people are hungry for Marxism and all these sorts of positivistic scientific things. They're hungry for something spiritual, but the old ways can't necessarily give that to them. And I think what we need to do is to come up with different ways of presenting the what is true in primordial wisdom, and I think there's that stuff is out there. I asked you about individuals or books. Well, certainly I'm writing a book about how Lawrence can present that, but another individual is Nikos Kazantzakis. He's got this book, The Saviors of God, and the thing is basically just this great thing. I can literally turn to any page in the book and come up with some amazing quote about God. Like, for instance, I believe in one God, defender of the borders of double descent, militant, suffering, of mighty but not omnipotent powers, a warrior at the farthest frontiers, commander-in-chief of all the luminous powers, the visible and invisible. I believe in the innumerable ephemeral masks which God has assumed throughout the centuries, and behind his ceaseless flux, I discern an indestructible unity. I believe in his sleepless and violent struggle which tames and fructifies the earth as the life-giving fountain of plants, animals, and men. I believe in man's heart, that earthen threshing floor where night and day the defender of the borders fights with death. O Lord, you shout, help me, help me. You shout, O Lord, and I hear. Within me, all forefathers and all descendants, all race and all earth, hear your cry and joy with joy and terror. Blessed be all those who hear and rush to free you, Lord, and who say, only you and I exist. Blessed be all those who free you and say, become united with you, Lord, and who say, you and I are one. And thrice blessed be those who bear on their shoulders and do not buckle under the great, sublime, and terrifying secret that only one exists and no other.
Only one, what? One self or one God?
Only one. That's it. Just simply one. Like, because he was saying only you and I exist. And then, the secret is that even that distinction doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's an apparent opposition that can be resolved.
Right. But yeah, I mean, there are all these interesting people out there. I mean, Kazantzakis was an interesting thinker. They tried to excommunicate him from the Orthodox Church, and he responded, I send all of my blessings to the priests and patriarchs. May they someday find, God within their hearts and love as well. He, in terms of modern authors, they actually say that in terms of word count, he uses the term God more than anyone else. But his whole entire project was trying to present religion in a way that modern men and women could come to with open arms and open hearts. And other people do that as well. But the churches, and mosques, they're not doing a very good job at that. And I think Sheikh al-Bashir, you've mentioned this before. I for one have found certain services in certain mosques and churches and temples to be beautiful, but once you get beyond the actual ritual and form and service, there's a lot of stagnancy and spiritual death. And I think we need some fructifying power.
Yeah, I think, what we need is more people who have seen what's in the older forms and references, who set about describing it using, different expressions. I think, we all do that a little bit, I think, when we try to adapt our approach to something that we're talking about with some other person. And if you really want to communicate, you have to know their language.
Right.
That's, so you kind of have to be a little bit nimble about it, because you don't know immediately what somebody's language is, but you can feel it after a little while.
Lawrence, unbeknownst to many, was I consider the great apophatic theologian of our times. He wrote this poem called Belief, and he said, God is forever nameless, forever unknown, forever unconceived, forever unrepresented, yet forever in the soul. And then he commented on that, that God is not an ideal. The ideal God is a proposition of the mental consciousness, all too limitedly human. No, there is God, but forever dark, forever unrealizable, forever and ever. The unutterable name, because it can never have a name. The great living darkness, which we represent by the glyph of God. There is this ever-present living darkness, inexhaustible and unknowable. It is, and it is all the God and the gods. And every living human soul is a wellhead to this darkness of the living unutterable. Into every living soul wells up this darkness, the unutterable. And then there's the travail of the visible with the invisible. Man is in travail with his own soul while ever his soul lives. Into his unconsciousness surges a new flood of the God darkness, the living unutterable. And this unutterable is like a germ, a fetus, with which he must travail, bringing it at last into utterance, into action, into being.
Well, that's good stuff.
Well,
there's somebody using a different language to describe something. But, it's not so much a question of describing, sometimes it's a question of pointing to something.
Right. The point being that he was not, he was trying to get outside of the terminology of the Orthodox religions and like basically point to something that he knew was true and real and there, but that many people were blocked off from. And I like the way he does it. I like the way he does it because, the way he presents it, anyone can come to that and it just makes complete, clear, intuitive sense. Whatever your belief is, it doesn't matter if you're, New Age person or Hindu or Muslim or Buddhist or anything. I mean, what he's saying there, I think, for anyone that has any sort of spiritual sensibility, makes sense. The problem is that the bulk of the world today are really materialists, and including, or maybe especially, the ones that go by the names of Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and Buddhists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to, they can also fall into nothing moreism.
Right. Or as the people I grew up with were, I only believe in God from 10 to 11 on Sundays.
Well, I have a quotation. I don't remember where it's from. I'll see if I can find it.
All right.
But give me a moment.
Sure.
There's some Methodist minister or writer or whatever he was, who wrote that how convenient it is, how convenient the fetus is to support and defend. It doesn't ask anything of you, you know, like the widow that questions the paternalistic society, or the child who needs something. In fact, it only matters until it's born, and at that point it no longer becomes the unborn, and you don't care. It no longer is the unborn. So you know, because all you know, it's easy. Just talk about being in favor of the unborn all the time, and it doesn't require anything of you.
Yeah, you know, I've heard that a lot, that these anti-abortion protesters tend to be, oh, we need to defend the people that can't defend for themselves. But I like how this was presented, that it's like, we only care about them because they can't talk back.
Yeah, exactly. We can assume whatever we want about them. We can assume they're grateful if we want. We can assume anything. We can assume that God needs our help in saving his soul. You know, and that's one of the amazing things about the Christian right, or the fundamentalists or evangelicals or whatever they want to call themselves, is that they have this belief that God needs them. You know, not that they need God. They feel like they already have God because they accepted Jesus Christ. But then they think that God needs them to do certain things to make the world more godly. You know, as if God couldn't do it himself if he wanted. It's
Who are those people?
Well, there are a lot of them on the Christian right. These are the dominionists, the people that think that, you know, they should take over all the levers of power in the name of God, you know, so that everything can be the way God wants it. It's bizarre. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. But if you listen to them, they're talking about how, you know, they have a divine mission of some kind. And as soon as you have a divine mission, you're saying that God needs you.
Yes, right. Right.
Protestants are a lot like the Blues Brothers. They're on a mission for God.
The Blues Brothers are on a mission?
Well, I mean,
that's right. That's
yeah,
what they said.
That's what
all right. Well, then I believe them. They better
Did you find your quote?
No, I'm still looking for it. But maybe I can come to our next meeting with this quote. But it addresses your question.
All right.
And it does it very well.